So let's kick it off. Where do you guys want to take this conversation? Because obviously there's a ton of uncertainty out there, yet both of you are, smiling and thriving at home and doing well in your businesses. So Roy, where do you want to kick it off?
I'm good, actually. Something I was thinking about earlier on today before I came on the call was three things that are happening now. And I equate them to how I kind of like live my life. Yeah. How you show up. And at this current time, three places where people are showing up is in the financial world, in the property world, and in the kind of like personal development world. Yeah. And this setback, this crisis is having an effect on the mindset in all those areas. So that's something I'd like to discuss during this call. And I think Richard's on the same page with that as well.
Yeah, I love it. It begs the question, were people prepared mentally and emotionally and financially? And we talked on the previous call that I teach a lot about having a rainy day fund, 6 months saved so that you don't stress out. A lot of people, 57% of people live paycheck to paycheck in the United States. I don't know about the rest of the world, probably pretty similar in Western society. So were you guys prepared? Rich, were you prepared mentally and emotionally for this?
I don't think anybody was really prepared for what's happening, but given the fact that I've spent a lot of time working on personal development and given the fact that I've also had many failures along the way, I feel like I've built up that resiliency, but now I'm just doubling down on it. And, I'm taking this time and opportunity to just make sure that I'm surrounded with like-minded people and just taking advantage of all of the content that's out there, and just also picking up the phone and making sure that I'm keeping in contact with those that I know will motivate me and elevate me much the same that I would do for them.
And Roy, how do you feel you came into this mentally and emotionally, and what are you doing to, stay strong?
Funny thing is, Rock, I feel like I was really prepared for this. Interestingly, I was in LA a couple of weeks ago, getting ready to fly to the event in Mexico. And I booked my flight. I was ready to fly. And then I kind of like decided at the last minute that I was going to come back to the UK. Something just spoke to me and says, Roy, you just need to go back home. My plan was I was going to go to Mexico and spend, I think it was 9 days before the event started, in an all-inclusive hotel, just chilling out, doing some work, which would have been really cool.
Right.
The thing with me, Rock, is I work from a place of happiness. And I've been talking about that for 2 or 3 years now. I contend for what I want. I'm ambitious, but I'm contented and I'm happy. And that is the rock I base my life on. So when this storm hit, I was kind of ready emotionally and mentally.
I love it. So let's talk a little bit about how you construct that resolve, because right. I think that I'm very similar. Maybe growing up on a farm, you're dealt with things that you're not used to, and the animals need to be fed. So we always found a way. You become very resourceful. And when people panic around me, it's almost like I become even more calm. Yeah. I have an inner narrative, and I always believe I'm going to find a way. So adversity actually excites me. It doesn't make me nervous. It actually gets my attention in a positive way. What are some of the things you do? You come from happiness. I love that statement that you come from happiness. It's almost like you have a preference. You have something you want to create or do, but if it doesn't turn out that way, you're willing to flex with it. Like you did. You didn't go to Mexico. You listened to your intuition. You went back home. So tell us a little bit about how you build that.
Right. Okay. Long story short was I've got 2 boys. My youngest son, we lost his mother to cancer about 15 years ago. And at that point, I was doing pretty well. I was pretty successful. Fact was, we were about to buy a massive property, start a new business. She was going to do horses. Everything was lined up, ready to live that kind of like super dream life. And it just came to a standstill. She passed away. And something happened to me at that time where I said to myself, I am not going to build my life on money and property. I'm going to build it on happiness, joy, and peace. And that was my bottom line. And I said to myself, I'm going to build a designer life. You know, I came from the fashion world, and I said, look, I'm going to design life to suit my happiness, not live life to try and find my happiness. So this is 15 years, Rock. So I've had 15 years working at this. And in the last couple of years, I've been flying, as you know, quite a bit. And I've been meeting with a lot of successful entrepreneurs, business leaders, celebrities, etc. And I've been carefully watching how they live, how they think, and how they operate in life when tough times hit, when good times are there. And I was just kind of like analyzing the mindset. And the truth is, Rock, funny enough, when I was coming to Mexico to speak, this was going to be my message. Yeah. And I was struggling with it, Rock. I was thinking, are these guys going to want to hear this? This was before this virus hit. And I was thinking maybe it's a bit too out there for people at the moment, because the way I see it, you've seen that film, Show Me the Money, yeah? That's a big thing nowadays, show me the money.
Right.
The other thing I say is, what I see is show me the property. A lot of people who are very successful are into property, yeah? And my thing, I thought, well, show me the money, show me the property. What are you about, Roy? My thing is, show me the memories. That's my big thing.
I love it.
From that basis, I've been building my life on memories, not on money, on property, on memories. Those are the two things still come into play, but I think the third one, for me personally, is the most important.
That's beautiful. And for those of you that are listening and don't know, and we got a ton of people on here, is both Rich and Roy were going to be speaking at an event that I was hosting in Mexico. We rented $38 million worth of properties, 4 beautiful homes, and they were going to fly in and speak. And that's what prompted me to do this virtual summit today, is because we were all going to be down there anyway. So we had booked that off. So it was pretty common that we were going to have some time to do this. So many of the people that were going to be at the event are on today. Plus, we've invited other people out of just a desire to get a community to connect. And Richard, in fact, introduced me to Roy, and we spent some time together. We both spoke at the same event in Ottawa. And I'll speak for myself, but it's kind of like bromance right away. We just, we all kind of just looked at each other and thought, anyway, I feel better about myself and my life when I'm in your presence, both of you. And hopefully you guys get a bit of the same with me. And
absolutely,
it makes so much sense now, Roy, where you're coming from, the intention that you put out there. I remember sitting, wherever we were at that restaurant till 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And we just like time flew by, but 90% of the time you were sitting there with a smile on your face, right? I'm like, am I funny or do I look funny, or is this guy just always happy? So it makes so much more sense. So thank you for putting those pieces together for me. So Rich, what do you do now as a real estate guy to remain resilient? Because like Roy said, so many people are showing me the property. There's a lot of uncertainty now around qualification, movement of property, et cetera. What's going on in that part of the world?
Yeah, I think a lot of real estate investors right now are scared shitless. They're afraid like what's going to happen. And I think the bigger your portfolio, the bigger the risk that you have upon you. I know one of the big lessons that I've learned, and I heard your conversation earlier where you talked about not having enough capital available and now being in a different position today. I think that obviously would come with experience. And you mentioned earlier that Warren Buffett, I think he had like 134 billion in cash. The lesson that I think most real estate investors are going to learn and are learning, and even myself, is you need to be more liquid, because there's a temptation as an investor when you know that you only need to put 20% into a property and can leverage the bank for the other 80%. The temptation is to just buy and buy and buy and buy. And so you put all your soldiers to work and you have nothing left, or not enough left that you could really get through. So for me, what I've learned is thankfully we have some reserves available, but there's limitations to that. So I would say if you're an investor right now in real estate, the number one thing that you need to do is to reach out to your tenants. And there's a lot of conversation that's been going around. I've been talking to a lot of other successful real estate investors, and they've been questioning that. And originally was, should I, if I bring that topic up, then, it kind of implies that I'm expecting it. So should I just kind of wait and see what happens? Maybe that's a better strategy. Or then the other strategy is to be proactive about it. But now, based on the announcement that the government has made, with Justin Trudeau saying essentially they're going to try to put something in place to help people who aren't able to pay their rent, and that people cannot be evicted during this time, that is almost a temptation for a tenant to not pay their rent. Even though we don't know exactly what that's going to look like, I would know for sure that if I'm in that position and I have an opportunity where I'm being told, hey, don't worry about it for now, we got to get through this, that, we're all wanting to preserve our capital. So it would make sense for some of our tenants to pull back. So I think now we have no choice but to really be proactive. And in fact, I was waiting to see what would happen myself because I didn't want to jump the gun too much for the same reasons. But today I was in touch with both property managers from different cities. And I just said, what's happening? What have you guys done? And also, here is a letter that I've written, and I would like you to take a look at it. And then, let's communicate and then send that on to the tenants. So at least I'm taking a proactive stance now, because I really don't think as investors that we have a choice. We need to know what's coming so that we can prepare ourselves by, if it means, calling up all of our lenders and asking our lenders if they could defer our payment for 6 months. I've heard all sorts of different conversations around that, with residential properties being eligible, but rental properties not being eligible. Different lenders have different perspectives on it. And for us, we have multiple lenders who we have mortgages with. So we're going to now be hammering the phones. We were already in touch with one of our primary A lenders yesterday, and we're going to see what we can do.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Thanks for sharing that. I'm gonna direct this to Roy, just because you made me think of something, Rich, as you're saying that. Is, Roy, do you think we're risking, with all of this talk, people not taking responsibility for their own affairs? Because the government's coming in, you can't be evicted, this and that. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna pay my rent for 6 months. I'm gonna play video games. I'm just gonna hang out. This is a time for people, I think, to get better, not to coast. What are your thoughts on that, Roy?
I'd tend to agree with you, Rock. But personally, I feel for the beginning of this process, or this stage we've got to go through, because of the shock, it's a sudden storm, people need time to get themselves prepared. They need to step away from what they've been doing in their jobs, their careers, and realign themselves. Even I needed to do it when I came back from the US, Rock. I thought, I just needed to take some time out and get a hold of where I am, who I am, and how I'm going to show up from here on. Yeah. Rather than going straight into diving and thinking, how do I make a great opportunity out of this turmoil? Yeah. And to be honest, I've been watching that, Rock, is that all of a sudden, some people who have been lying low on personal development, on the business, etc., arenas, are suddenly coming out with, they're becoming leaders out of nowhere. Yeah. And I'm wondering, well, you weren't like that before. How can you be like that now? Isn't it right that you take time to assess exactly who you are at this moment in time? What value are you going to bring to the world? What value are you going to bring to your family? What value are you going to bring to your community? What value are you going to bring to your colleagues? Then go and hit the pedal hard to create the opportunities for when you get out of this turmoil. That's kind of like how I see it, Rob.
Yeah, I would agree. So if we look at this from a high level, and I'll ask both of you to comment on this, what is the spiritual or life lesson that the universe might be delivering us? Because if we come out of this and we all go back to status quo, I think we're going to miss an opportunity for an evolution as a planet.
Yeah.
What would you guys like to to set as an invitation for people to consider coming out of this, that we can all maybe have as different practices or better practices?
Well, build your life on the rock, not on the sand. Yeah, because as we can see, these things that have been built on sand, etc., they're sinking, they're falling. We need to build it on our emotions, our soul, and our spirit. Those are the things that cannot really be affected by the times, because if they're secure, they're strong, whatever the storm, you'll still be standing.
So follow-up question to that, and we'll get to you, Rich, is giving me some concrete examples, because I give you an example is I've been running a tribe for 8 years, 4 years, M1. I teach people to put 10% away, pay yourself first, and 10% for a rainy day fund. And still people resist doing it because they're hoping and wishing that tomorrow's going to get better and easier. They'll do it later and their immediate gratification, etc. But those that are prepared and built their life on a solid foundation or a rock, those people now are going to benefit more. They've developed the rituals and routines at home that now are easy to maintain, you know, hard 75 or whatever it is. They've been doing it before. So how do you get people, like you had something happen, Roy, to you that was what I call an extreme emotional event.
Right.
That's you'll never forget it, ever.
Right.
And it changed you. This will be an extreme emotional event for a lot of people, but if you haven't had those happen, how do you inflict transformation upon yourself? I'll start with Richard. What do you think?
Yeah, I think if people haven't had that happen before, they're having it happen now.
Yeah.
So this is their opportunity to take the advice that we're giving here today and to get into action, to start creating the rituals around programming your life the way that you want it, a life by design. I think financially, they're going to realize, even just in your comments about saving 10% and being ready, they're recognizing whether they are or they're not. Or more importantly, are the people around them ready or not? And can they share that and be a leader within their community? I think back to kind of what Roy was talking about is, you know, he said build upon a rock, and he talked about having the right mindset and the right beliefs. I think that through failure, we learn ultimately that we're not in control. We may think we're in control. We may think that we control the universe and that we can attract absolutely everything to ourselves, and then that we can control both the good and the bad. But realistically, this is what's happening right now is proof that we can't. So my recommendation, and through my own failures, because in all honesty, you know, I spent the first half of my life building up my ego, and now I'm spending the second half of my life breaking it down. And I've had to learn lessons the painful way. And I think the biggest thing that came out of it for me that created the resilience was stepping into faith and asking the deeper, bigger questions to figure out, you know, what is my purpose here, and what am I supposed to be doing? And ultimately the answer comes down to contribution to others. And as soon as we make the decision that life is not about us, but we're supposed to take all of the painful lessons and experiences that we've had and use them to empower and share with others, that ultimately is the real success. And I think that's why we're all here today on the call, because we've learned that through our own failures.
That's beautiful. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Roy?
Well, yeah, I totally agree with Richard on that. He's spot on. And you spoke about that point in my life where, you know, things really were tough. I honestly was prepared for that at that time as well. And I'll tell you how, Rock, because lucky enough, a couple of years before, I just got into the whole personal development world. So I was taking on board a lot of motivational, inspirational, and spiritual content. So I'd had say 2 or 3 years of that input. So it sunk in, and it become part of my life, part of my heart. Yeah, and that's just the way I functioned. So then, when the hard times hit, I knew I was in a different place from most people, and I needed to be at that time because I had my son. He was 7.5 then, and obviously it was a big loss to both of us. Yeah, and I'm diversing away from it a little bit, Rock, because I was thinking about your video that you spoke about, that story with your dad. And when I flew back from America a couple of weeks ago, one of the things I flew back for was to see my son on the catwalk at a fashion show, and also to go with him and my oldest son to an event that he was hosting for his business. And one of the things he said to me, Rob, was, Dad, why are you coming to this when you didn't come to my football matches? And that hit me like a rock. I thought, people know me that I'm very, very close to Joseph. We're really strong, really well connected, and we've just done everything together and gone through a lot together. And the thing about when he made that statement, Rock, was it was a memory that he was mostly concerned with. And that's where that statement showed me the memories came from. So in this time, for people who are going through this turmoil, they've got no choice but to be with their families, their friends, their relatives, etc. This is the time to create memories, yeah? When the day comes when we leave this earth, nobody's going to say, show me your bank account. Nobody's going to say, show me your property. They're going to talk about how you turned up in their world, yeah? And that's where show me the memory comes from. And if anything, that's the message I want to leave from this call for myself personally. Take this time to create memories. I'm just across the road from the beach. I'm down there every day. I'm down there in the morning. I'm down there in the evening. I'm there and I'm talking to people. I'm on the phone, connecting with people. I am taking the time to create memories. And I think that's probably the best thing, apart from developing yourself, that you can get from a time like this.
So what I hear both of you saying is you've had events in your life shape you, that have driven you to a higher meaning for your day-to-day lives, and you're expressing it so eloquently, and it gives me goosebumps as I hear you guys both say it. And my mom's down in Florida. She's 83 years old, and I called her up. I've been calling her up every day, working on getting her home and this and that. And on the third or fourth day, she started to cry on the phone.
Wow.
And I go, why are you crying? She goes, you've never called me this often.
Wow.
And she said, the fact that you care is really hitting me. And I thought to myself, but I always care.
Yeah.
I've always cared. I just got, you get busy.
Right.
Or you tell yourself you get busy, and you maybe stop making those important calls. So I really appreciate you guys bringing it and turning the focus on that. And it's so cliche. We're all like, oh, I should call, I should go, I should be at the recital, I should do this, I should do that. But maybe in the end, this pandemic is going to be, or carries with it, the opportunity to have a blessing for people to make a new choice on how they prioritize their life. And maybe they come more from a higher meaning, come from happiness, come from joy, come from contribution. And all the other parts inevitably take care of themselves.
Yeah.
So leave us both with some parting words, a book, a recommendation, or whatever, to help people to be able to come through this actually feeling deeply grateful for the opportunity to find a new part of themselves.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel, first of all, Roy, what you said made me feel emotional. I feel like the three of us are all on the same page, and just with the comments around family and how you're spending your time right now, I think a lot of people feel pressure that they need to be getting into action right away and figuring out the solution. I haven't been doing that. I've actually been doing what Roy's recommended and just taking the time to work on two primary things. One is spending time with my kids and trying to turn into them and be fully present, and also spend that time with my wife. And the second is to just double down on the personal development and just feed your mind as much as you possibly can to just help you get through it. You can turn to all sorts of podcasts, books, the Bible, all of these things that you've been putting off. And as far as like recommending a book, I think the book you should be reading is the book that you haven't read already. It's already on your shelf. It's been sitting there waiting for you. Pick up that book, read it, and just get that one off your list. Now's the opportunity for you to finish up all the loose ends and the things that you haven't done. And just, the book that I did hear about today, and I know we all have well, not all of us, but many of us have already read this book. It's going back to the fundamentals, and that book would be Think and Grow Rich. Even if you've read it, read it again, and just stay tight with the community around you. Think of ways that you can be in service, and just love on each other as much as you possibly can.
That's really good, Rich.
Beautiful. Roy,
awesome.
Wrap us up.
Yeah, I think this is a time, Rock, to look inside ourselves, to ask how in the future are we going to show up for those around us? Yeah. What value are we going to bring to the world? Is it going to be a transactional value, a commercial value, or a personal value? The first two are affected by the economy and things like these viruses or whatever. The last one is your choice. How are you going to show up in people's lives in person? The way you do that will affect the other two. The better you do the third, the better you perform on the first two. So just got to say it. It's something that stuck in my mind again, Rock. Show me the memory.
I love it. Coming all the way from London, England, Roy Smoothe, a good friend, a dear friend, and from Ottawa, Canada, Rich Danby. Thank you both so much. And I want to just read this that somebody posted, and I think it really sums up what we talked about is show me your memory. Take this time to create memories. Beautiful. I am seeing so much of this happening now. Big brothers teaching little brothers how to throw a ball, or my teenage daughter's getting the sidewalk chalk back out and getting back to basics. I see family coming together. It's actually quite beautiful.
It's amazing.
So the opportunity is there. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Rich, if you look through the comments, there's a bunch of questions for you regarding some real estate. If you have a chance to respond to those, that would be great. We're out of time here. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thanks, Rob.
Have a good rest of the day. Stay safe.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.
All right, God bless.
See you later, Rob.
Cheers.